Sigma never overlooks disrespect, manipulation, or passive aggression. Not because he wants to start drama, but because he knows one overlooked offense leads to another. And before long, people start testing his boundaries like it's a game. The Sigma understands human psychology better than most. He knows that when you allow one person to cross a line, others will follow suit like clockwork. It doesn't matter if you're his friend, co-worker, or even a romantic partner. Once you disrespect a Sigma's values or personal code, the connection begins to unravel. Sigmas have an internal compass that doesn't allow them to tolerate certain behaviors, no matter who it's coming from. This isn't about pride or ego, it's about principle. They live by a set of rules that prioritize self-respect, mental peace, and independence. And once you break those rules, it's not just a personal offense, it's a breach of the trust that the Sigma rarely gives in the first place. People often mistake Sigma males as loners or cold-hearted individuals, but in reality, they're some of the most calculated and self-aware people you'll ever meet. Their emotional distance isn't detachment, it's discipline. They've learned through experience and observation that tolerance for toxic behavior is a fast track to chaos. They don't just talk about boundaries, them, with quiet confidence and no need for explanation. So if you find yourself in the company of a Sigma and want to stay there, know this: respect is not optional, it's the currency of connection in his world. Coming up next, we're diving into the 8 specific things Sigma males will never tolerate from anyone. Stay tuned. Number 1, fake respect and forced politeness. Here's the thing, a Sigma male doesn't need a smile if it's hiding a knife. He doesn't care for polished politeness that conceals a hidden agenda. In fact, he'd rather be hit with the raw truth than be coddled by sugar-coated deception. That's because Sigmas thrive on clarity, not comfort. They operate in a realm where words must carry the weight of truth, not just the melody of charm. In a world addicted to superficial pleasantries and social masks, Sigma males are a rare breed who instinctively detect what's real and what's rehearsed. They're naturally equipped with a sharp BS detector, an almost uncanny ability to read between the lines. Psychology refers to this as high social intelligence, particularly in the form of cognitive empathy. Unlike emotional empathy, which makes one feel others' emotions, cognitive empathy allows a person to understand the motives and intentions behind someone's actions. Sigmas don't just hear what you say, they observe how you say it, watch what you do, and notice whether those two things line up. If your actions contradict your words, he won't confront you with drama or create a scene, he'll simply detach. Quietly, permanently, that's the Sigma way. People pleasers and overcharmers rarely survive long in a Sigma's orbit. Why? Because the constant need for validation and approval disrupts the natural independence that defines a Sigma's world. Sigmas don't care if you like them, they care if you respect them. And respect, in their book, is never handed out for free. It must be earned through integrity and consistency. Courtesy that's just performance doesn't impress them, it irritates them. You can be imperfect, messy, even disagreeable. But as long as you're real, a Sigma will respect you for it. What truly turns a Sigma off is inauthenticity. Fake laughs, forced compliments, manipulative friendliness, these are like static noise to his frequency. He doesn't expect perfection, he expects sincerity. That's why Sigmas are often drawn to people who are unapologetically themselves. Even if you're blunt or rough around the edges, your honesty is refreshing. But once he senses you're wearing a mask, you're already fading into the background. To a Sigma male, authenticity isn't optional. It's the only language he speaks. Number 2, drama and gossip. If you ever want to see a Sigma vanish like Houdini, start talking about what Sarah said about Mike, who cheated on Lisa with Karen. That's the fastest way to lose him, because Sigmas don't do soap operas. They don't get tangled in emotional theatrics or the swirling vortex of gossip that keeps so many people mentally exhausted and emotionally spent. To a Sigma male, drama is the equivalent of junk food for the soul. It's fast, it's tempting, and it provides a short burst of excitement. But in the end, it leaves you sluggish, empty, and spiritually undernourished. Sigmas thrive on peace and clarity. They've learned that feeding off chaos doesn't just kill productivity, it warps your perception and drains your focus. While the average person may find gossip entertaining or even a way to bond socially, Sigmas see it for what it truly is, a distraction from purpose. Research even backs this up. Constant exposure to social drama has been linked to increased stress, anxiety, and even lower self-esteem. Sigmas are wired to protect their inner energy from that nonsense. They know that every minute spent dissecting someone else's messy life is a minute stolen from their own goals, dreams, and mental clarity. These men are builders of ideas, businesses, skills, and personal growth. Their minds are constantly occupied with the question, how can I improve this? Whether it's themselves, their craft, or the world around them, they're locked into a mindset of elevation, not degradation. So if someone brings drama to the table, a Sigma will quietly excuse himself. No confrontation, no explanation, just silence. Because in his world, time is sacred and peace is non-negotiable. You'll never catch a Sigma choosing gossip over growth or pettiness over purpose. If your life runs on chaos, attention-seeking, and who said what to whom, don't expect him to sit through the show. He's already left the theater. Number 3, manipulation, emotional blackmail, guilt trips, passive-aggressive games. These are manipulation tactics often used to gain control in relationships, whether romantic, professional, or social. But try pulling any of that on a Sigma male and you'll quickly find yourself talking to empty space. Sigmas are masters of silent exits. You won't get drama, confrontation, or a long-winded explanation, just their sudden and complete disappearance. That's not arrogance, it's self-respect. See, Sigma males are lone wolves by nature. They're not looking to be saved or soothed. They're not clinging to relationships for validation or security. Unlike those who dread solitude, Sigmas actually recharge in it. That's their edge. Emotional manipulation thrives on dependency, on someone needing approval, affection, or reassurance so badly that they'll tolerate mistreatment to keep the peace. But a Sigma, he's already at peace on his own. So if you try to play mind games with him, he simply opts out. No fuss, no warning, just gone. It's not that Sigmas are cold or heartless, quite the opposite. They often care deeply, but their self-worth isn't tied to others' behavior. They've learned that arguing with manipulative people only fuels the fire. Instead of reacting, they remove themselves. This mindset is backed by psychology too. Studies show that emotionally intelligent individuals, those with high self-awareness and self-regulation, are far less likely to be swayed by guilt or gaslighting. Sigma males embody that emotional intelligence. They see through the smokescreen, recognize the patterns, and don't stick around for round 2. What really sets them apart is their ability to detach with dignity. They don't retaliate. They don't try to out-manipulate the manipulator. They just walk away, leaving behind a powerful message, I choose peace over drama. That's their strength. In a world where many are pulled into toxic dynamics out of fear of being alone, the Sigma male's solitude is his superpower. Try to control him, and you'll find he's already 10 steps ahead, moving in silence, unmoved by guilt, and untouchable by games. Number 4, lack of boundaries. Call him cold, call him distant, call him mysterious. But here's the truth. The Sigma male has walls, not fences, and you don't get in unless you're invited. He doesn't build these walls to push people away out of arrogance or superiority. He builds them because solitude is his sanctuary, and peace is a currency he refuses to waste. To outsiders, this might seem harsh, even unfriendly, but what they fail to realize is that the Sigma male isn't interested in small talk, emotional manipulation, or performative relationships. He values depth, honesty, and autonomy, and anyone who threatens that equilibrium is met with the quiet force of his boundaries. He guards his time, energy, and peace like it's sacred. Why? Because it is. In a world that thrives on noise, validation, and overstimulation, the Sigma male retreats inward. Psychological studies show that introverted personality types, particularly those resembling the Sigma archetype, require extended alone time to recharge and function at their best. This isn't some trendy self-care ritual, it's a neurological necessity. When people invade his space without permission, constantly demand his presence, or refuse to acknowledge his need for independence, he doesn't argue or lash out. He disappears, not out of spite, but self-preservation. If you constantly barge into his life, demand attention, overstep limits, or ignore his no, expect to meet his silence. Not the cold shoulder kind of silence, but the kind that comes with doors quietly shutting and locks clicking into place. It's not personal, it's principle. The Sigma male doesn't beg to be understood, he doesn't chase validation, and he certainly doesn't entertain chaos disguised as closeness. His silence is his final answer. Boundaries aren't optional, they're survival. In a world that rarely respects the need for space or individuality, the Sigma male has learned that drawing the line isn't just about protecting himself, It's about preserving his ability to think, create, and live on his own terms. You either respect that, or you find yourself on the other side of his wall, wondering why he vanished without a word. The truth is, he didn't vanish. He simply chose peace over pressure and clarity over confusion. That's not cold, that's controlled. Number 5, neediness and emotional dependency. Let's be honest, Sigma males aren't babysitters for fragile egos. They aren't wired to cater to constant emotional maintenance or the exhausting tug-of-war of neediness. For a Sigma, energy is sacred. Every interaction is a transaction, and when it comes to emotional energy, they don't spend it where there's no return. Clinginess, codependency, or emotional meltdowns over an unread text. That's like trying to plug a USB into a stone wall. It just doesn't connect. Now, don't mistake this for cold-heartedness. Sigma males absolutely care. In fact, when they connect, it's deeply authentic. But their love language isn't constant validation. They thrive in relationships that operate on mutual respect and emotional independence. It's not about being distant. It's about choosing depth over drama. And this mindset is backed by psychological science too. Studies in attachment theory show that secure individuals value autonomy while still forming strong, meaningful bonds. That's exactly the Sigma's lane. Sigma males are deeply drawn to strength, specifically the kind that comes from within. They admire people who are self-reliant, those who carry themselves with quiet confidence and navigate life without needing a spotlight or applause. Resilience is attractive. Emotional maturity is magnetic. If you fall apart every time they need space, or if your world collapses when a text goes unanswered for an hour, they're going to quietly slip away. You see, Sigmas are minimalists when it comes to relationships, not in terms of affection, but in terms of emotional chaos. They don't want a partner who constantly needs to be rescued. They want someone who can hold their own, who can communicate with honesty but not desperation. There's beauty in being real and raw, in expressing yourself authentically. But when that honesty turns into constant emotional neediness, it becomes an expense the Sigma male isn't willing to carry. Their mindset is simple. They're building a peaceful, purposeful life. If your presence brings peace, you're welcome. But if it brings pressure, you'll find yourself watching them walk away silently and without explanation. Because to a Sigma, peace isn't negotiable. Number 6, groupthink and herd mentality. Here's something that rattles a Sigma to his core: blind conformity. To a Sigma male, the idea of following the herd without thought or reason is not just uncomfortable, it's unacceptable. In a world where most people are wired to seek approval, blend in, and follow trends for the sake of social acceptance, the Sigma male operates like a lone wolf who listens to a different frequency altogether. He's not driven by what's popular. He's driven by what's true. While others nod along just to avoid conflict or to gain favor, the Sigma remains unmoved, even if it means standing alone. He questions the system. He interrogates the norms. He challenges the status quo. And if something doesn't sit right with his internal compass, he doesn't just disagree silently. He quietly withdraws and redirects his energy toward a more authentic path. When society says fit in, the Sigma doesn't just ignore it. He pauses and asks, why? That question, simple as it seems, is the bedrock of his individuality. He's not being difficult for the sake of rebellion. He's being honest. Sigmas don't adopt belief systems because they're convenient. They don't jump on bandwagons or follow fashion trends just to look cool. Instead, they filter everything through a rigorous inner lens. If it doesn't resonate with their core values, they simply won't fake it. And this isn't just about being different, it's about being real. This kind of mindset has historical roots. Some of the world's most influential thinkers, inventors, and revolutionaries embodied this Sigma spirit. From Nikola Tesla, who defied mainstream science, to Steve Jobs, who literally coined the slogan, "Think different," these men didn't conform, they transformed. What makes the Sigma male dangerous to the system is not aggression or ego, it's clarity. He sees through the noise, he doesn't crave attention, but his quiet confidence and refusal to bow to trends make him magnetic. In a world of filters and facades, his authenticity is rare and unsettling to many. So when you see someone who stands apart, questions everything, and refuses to follow blindly, you might be witnessing the Sigma at work. He doesn't need to shout. He doesn't need to prove. He just lives the truth, and that alone is enough to shake the world. Number 7, disrespect. Sigmas may be silent, but they're not spineless. Behind that calm exterior lies an iron will and a deeply rooted principle. Respect is non-negotiable. For Sigma males, it's not about ego or dominance, it's about self-worth. They know their value, and they've worked hard to cultivate a sense of identity that doesn't rely on validation from others. That's why respect isn't something they hope for in a relationship, it's the foundation. Without it, there's no trust, no connection, and certainly no reason to stay. You can disagree with a Sigma male. In fact, he welcomes thoughtful debate. Intellectual stimulation is one of the rare things that actually engages him. He's not intimidated by being challenged, he thrives on it. But there's a hard boundary between disagreement and disrespect. The moment someone crosses that invisible line, whether through condescension, manipulation, or outright insult, the switch flips. And here's where Sigma males differ from others. They don't raise their voice. They don't go to war, they simply vanish. This reaction isn't passive-aggressive, it's strategic. Sigmas are highly self-aware and emotionally disciplined. Psychologically, this is known as strategic withdrawal, a conscious decision to remove oneself from toxic environments rather than engaging in destructive behavior. It's not a weakness, it's self-preservation. While others might waste time arguing or seeking closure, a Sigma cuts the cord instantly. Like a shadow dissolving into the night, he exits with no announcement, no drama, and no second chances. Why does he never come back? Because returning would mean compromising his boundaries. Sigmas live by an internal code that values solitude over chaos, peace over ego, and growth over validation. Once disrespected, trust is shattered beyond repair. Studies in social psychology confirm that individuals with high self-respect are less likely to tolerate repeated offenses. And Sigmas are the epitome of that principle. In a world obsessed with noise, Sigma males move with quiet power. They don't need the last word. They don't need to prove a point. Their absence is the message. And those who once took their silence for weakness soon realize they were in the presence of someone who demanded respect without ever having to ask for it. Number 8, control. You want to lose a Sigma, try to own him, micromanage him, tell him who to be, what to wear, how to act, and who to love. You'll lose him in an instant. That's not drama, that's biology. Sigma males are wired for independence. They don't just value freedom, they breathe it. It's as essential to them as air. The moment they sense a leash, they disappear like smoke in the wind. You can't own what refuses to be possessed. Sigmas were born allergic to cages. This isn't just poetic language, it reflects a real psychological pattern rooted in high levels of self-determination and autonomy. Studies on personality types often associate these traits with introverted, non-conforming individuals who are deeply driven by internal goals rather than external validation. They're not trying to be rebellious, they're just built differently. Whether it's a relationship, a job, a social group, or even pressure from family, Sigma males instinctively recoil from anything that feels like control. And here's the thing, Sigmas don't equate love with obedience. They equate love with respect for their space, their mind, and their mission. Tell a Sigma who to be, and you're no longer a partner. You've become a warden. Try to mold him into someone else, and you'll find yourself talking to his back as he walks away. You see, Sigmas seek freedom, not comfort. While others chase security, acceptance, or approval, Sigmas chase purpose and liberty. And if they have to choose between being accepted or being free, they choose freedom. Every time. Not out of pride, but out of principle. They know that compromise on core identity is a slow death of the soul. So if you want to lose a Sigma, control him. But if you want to keep one, understand this. He's not looking for someone to complete him. He's looking for someone who won't try to change him. Sigmas live by a silent code. It's not written, it's lived. They don't waste words, they don't fake feelings, they don't tolerate nonsense. And that's what makes them powerful. If you're tired of playing the social game, of tolerating less than you deserve, of being someone you're not, maybe you've got a Sigma inside you waiting to rise. So start setting your boundaries. Walk away from what drains you. Be unapologetically authentic. Because power begins where tolerance ends. Sigmas, if this resonated with you, hit that like button, subscribe, and become part of a community that values depth over noise, strength over show, and freedom over fitting in. Let's keep growing, let's keep rising. Stay safe and stay Sigma. There is a dark side to everyone. a shadow self shaped by trauma, insecurity, fear, or unmet desires. But the critical difference lies in whether we choose to face it or let it govern how we treat others. When you encounter truly malicious individuals, those who refuse to confront their inner wounds, they often weaponize that darkness. These are the people who, instead of healing, choose manipulation, deceit, and control as their tools. The unsettling part is that they usually wear a mask, pretending to be kind, generous, or even helpless until you begin to see behind the facade. Once they sense that you've uncovered their true nature, things change quickly. Their tactics shift from subtle manipulation to more direct forms of emotional sabotage. They might gaslight you, isolate you from others, guilt-trip you, or play the victim, all in an attempt to regain control. Whether it's a family member who constantly undermines your confidence, a friend who turns your achievements into threats, or a partner who twists your emotions to make you doubt your reality, recognizing these behaviors is essential. Psychology defines many of these tactics under the umbrella of narcissistic or sociopathic tendencies, where empathy is low, but the need to dominate or exploit is high. By exposing these manipulative patterns, you're not only shining a light on their darkness, but also empowering yourself. Education is your first line of defense. Understanding their motives helps you detach emotionally, set firm boundaries, and protect your peace. Remember, these people thrive in secrecy and confusion. Once you see clearly, you strip them of power. It's not about fighting fire with fire. It's about staying grounded, maintaining your integrity, and refusing to be a pawn in someone else's toxic game. You deserve peace, clarity, and relationships rooted in honesty, not control. Number 1, they try to sabotage your peace. The Sigma male thrives in solitude, not as an escape, but as his power source. That calm, undisturbed silence isn't emptiness. It's where strategies are born, skills are sharpened, and personal evolution accelerates. In that stillness, the Sigma finds clarity, vision, and direction. He doesn't need the validation of a crowd or the noise of approval. While others chase attention, the Sigma retreats inward, focused on building something greater than applause, legacy. And this unnerves evil people. Why? Because they can't control what they can't distract. When you're not orbiting around their needs or their drama, they panic. Your detachment reveals their dependency. And so they strike, not with physical force, but psychological games. Out of nowhere, you'll notice sudden drama that you didn't ask for and didn't start. Whispers begin circulating about things you never said or did. Conflicts brew with no roots. Arguments are lit with no spark. And just when you think you've finally achieved peace, here comes a so-called emergency begging for your immediate attention. These aren't accidents. They're carefully planted chaos seeds, designed to drag you out of that sacred solitude. You see, evil thrives on control, and control requires access to your emotions, your focus, your reactions. But when a Sigma chooses silence over confrontation and solitude over spectacle, it denies them that access completely. This isn't just theory, it's psychology. Studies on narcissistic behavior show that people with manipulative tendencies often provoke conflict when they feel ignored or powerless. Silence to them is a threat, not a boundary. And the Sigma's refusal to engage only amplifies their insecurity. But here's the twist. While they're wasting energy spinning drama, the Sigma is using that same time to build, not just businesses or goals, but discipline, emotional mastery, and self-sufficiency. In a world obsessed with clout and confrontation, the Sigma becomes untouchable because he doesn't react, he refines. He doesn't argue, he evolves. So when chaos comes knocking, it's not a sign of weakness. It's proof that your peace is powerful. Evil doesn't target the broken. It targets the strong, the focused, the ones they can't manipulate. And while they throw tantrums for attention, the Sigma simply keeps building, not for applause, not for revenge, but because silence is his sanctuary, and from it empires rise. Number 2, they spread lies to tarnish your image. When people realize they can't control you, their next move is often subtle but calculated. They begin a silent campaign to control how others see you. This tactic is nothing new. It's been observed throughout history, from ancient courts to modern boardrooms. But today, it shows up in everyday life through gossip, slander, and the silent sabotage of reputations. And nothing screams desperation louder than someone who spins fake narratives in an attempt to bring down someone they secretly envy. Evil people are often excellent manipulators, not necessarily because they're intelligent, but because they've spent years mastering emotional tactics. They study your words, find your vulnerabilities, and strike where it hurts. They'll twist your statements out of context and paint you as arrogant, distant, or even heartless, all to create confusion and shift the spotlight away from their own flaws. Why do they do this? Because your independence, especially when you're a Sigma, highlights what they lack: confidence, self-sufficiency, and inner peace. Sigmas, by nature, are hard to manipulate. They don't seek validation, they're not easily influenced, and they operate from a place of logic rather than emotion. This makes them immune to the typical tools of control used by toxic individuals. But this very immunity threatens those who thrive on control, so when they can't dominate the Sigma, they try to isolate him instead, through whispers, false accusations, and social games. Here's the twist. A Sigma doesn't waste time defending his name with arguments or counter-drama. He understands that truth always reveals itself in the long run. His focus is on progress, not pettiness. Instead of playing into the chaos, he lets his actions speak volumes. Whether it's in his work, his relationships, or his growth, the results he achieves become undeniable. People may believe lies for a season, but over time, patterns emerge, and consistency exposes character. The Sigma remains calm in the storm, knowing that trying to prove a lie wrong often gives it more attention than it deserves. In a world where narratives can be weaponized, the Sigma stands as proof that strength lies not in shouting louder, but in walking taller. His silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And while others waste their energy trying to tarnish his image, the Sigma is busy building a life so solid no rumor can shake it. And number 3, they test your boundaries repeatedly. A Sigma. Males' boundaries are like steel gates, firm, deliberate, and utterly non-negotiable. They're not erected out of spite or arrogance, but from a deep sense of self-respect and emotional clarity. Sigma males operate with an internal compass, not external validation, and this makes their boundaries sacred ground. However, to toxic or manipulative individuals, those who thrive on control, chaos, or emotional dependence, these boundaries are nothing short of a threat. Evil people in particular despise boundaries because boundaries block access, deny manipulation, and dismantle their ability to feed off others' energy. So they test you. They ignore your no, pretending not to hear it or acting offended by it. They might push your limits with backhanded comments or sudden drop-ins that disregard your space. They ask for favors they know you'll decline just to turn around and accuse you of being cold or selfish. It's never overt at first. It's a slow erosion attempt, calculated and subtle, chipping away at your principles in hopes of gaining control. But here's the twist. Every time a Sigma male calmly reinforces that boundary, he sends a message louder than any shout could deliver. I know who I am and you won't shake me. Psychologically, this is called assertive boundary setting, a trait that's not only healthy but often admired by therapists and leadership experts. Studies in social psychology show that people with strong personal boundaries have higher self-esteem, less anxiety, and stronger relationships. For Sigma males, this boundary discipline becomes their armor, their fortress. Each no is another brick in the wall of self-mastery. It shows emotional intelligence, foresight, and control, not just of others, but of oneself. And ironically, while this infuriates the manipulators who seek to break them, it simultaneously earns the respect, and sometimes fear, of onlookers. Because in a world where many bend under pressure, the one who doesn't becomes a symbol of quiet power. Being unshakable doesn't mean being unkind, it means being rooted. Sigma males don't lash out. They don't explain endlessly, they simply uphold their standards like laws of nature. And that's what makes their presence so powerful. Evil people can't thrive where manipulation fails, and Sigma males are experts at shutting that door, gently but decisively. Their boundaries don't just protect them, they define them. And in doing so, they inspire others to find their own line in the sand and finally defend it. Number 4, they mimic you to steal your influence. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but when evil people do it, it's anything but sincere. It's a strategy, a calculated move. These individuals aren't just admiring your confidence, your calm detachment, or your quiet dominance. They're trying to you. They study your style, how you speak with precision, how you move with purpose, and how you command presence without ever raising your voice. But their goal isn't to celebrate you, it's to copy and eventually replace you. This imitation game is rooted in envy, insecurity, and a desperate hunger to wear the skin of someone they secretly resent. What they fail to understand, however, is that being a Sigma male isn't about wearing leather jackets or speaking in low tones. It's not about appearing mysterious or having a cool playlist. Being a Sigma is a mindset forged in fire through years of solitude, deep introspection, emotional pain, and learning to find power in silence. Psychology backs this up. Those who display high levels of self-awareness and independence often undergo long periods of social withdrawal and personal growth. These aren't surface-level traits. They're deeply embedded behavioral patterns that can't be faked. You can mimic the shell, but you'll never duplicate the soul. That's why these imitators eventually falter. They crack under pressure, act out of character, and expose their fragile egos. They want your confidence without the internal discipline that built it. They want the fruits of your solitude without the isolation that birthed your strength. They think being a Sigma is about looking the part, but it's really about living the part every single day. The Sigma doesn't chase trends or seek validation. He listens to his intuition, walks alone when necessary, and makes peace with not fitting in. That's why imposters always fail. They want the outcome, not the journey. So if you've ever noticed someone mirroring your moves, trying to speak like you, act like you, or dress like you, watch closely. It might not be admiration at all, it might be an attempt to hijack your identity, but they'll always fall short. Because Sigma energy isn't learned, it's earned. And no amount of imitation can substitute for authenticity that's been forged in silence, sharpened by struggle, and backed by truth. Number 5, they isolate you to weaken you. Here's the irony. Sigma males are wired for solitude. They intentionally step away from crowds to recharge, to reflect, and to grow in silence. But when evil people catch wind of this trait, they try to weaponize it. They twist your natural desire for solitude into something sinister. Suddenly, whispers begin. Friends start to pull away. Your name gets dragged through invisible mud in rooms you've never even entered. Social tension rises like smoke, and before long you're isolated. Not by your own doing, but by calculated sabotage. This isn't just drama, it's psychological warfare. The goal is to disarm you by removing your support system, to trap you in loneliness and to make you second-guess your worth. But here's the beautiful truth they always overlook. Isolation for a Sigma is not punishment, it's preparation. While others crumble without attention, Sigmas flourish in silence. History has shown that some of the most influential thinkers, creators, and leaders like Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, or even Bruce Lee spent long stretches in solitude, not to escape life, but to master it. Evil people assume they're burying the Sigma, pushing him into obscurity, but what they don't realize is they're planting him. And like a seed in the soil, that darkness becomes nourishment, that silence becomes focus, that betrayal becomes fuel. It's in the quiet corners of life that the Sigma reinvents himself, sharpens his skills, and comes back stronger, smarter, and more unshakable than ever. So while others dread isolation, Sigmas embrace it. What was meant to be a trap becomes a transformation. The very tool designed to destroy him becomes the crucible that refines him. That's the Sigma paradox. You can take away the noise, the crowd, even the applause, and he'll still rise. Not because of external validation, but because of internal evolution. Evil may try to rewrite your story, but in solitude you become the author again. And by the time they realize what you've become, it's too late. You've already outgrown the battlefield they tried to confine you in. Number 6, they try to trigger you emotionally. Evil people can't stand emotional discipline. It drives them mad. That's why they poke, prod, and provoke. They don't do it randomly. It's a strategy. These types thrive in chaos because they can't control themselves, so they try to control others. When they see someone like a Sigma male, calm, collected, and emotionally grounded, they see a mirror that reflects everything they're not, and it burns. So what do? They go straight for the jugular. They bring up your past, trying to resurface old wounds you've long outgrown. They toss around subtle insults dressed as jokes. They guilt-trip, gaslight, and manipulate, all in an effort to break that emotional armor. Psychology calls this emotional baiting. a tactic narcissists and toxic personalities use to throw others off balance. Why? Because your silence, your restraint, and your refusal to engage in petty drama threatens their sense of control. They want you to explode, to lose your cool, to match their madness. That way they can point the finger and say, "See, you're the problem." But a Sigma doesn't fall for the trap. Instead of engaging, he studies, observes, tilts his head, smirks ever so slightly, and walks away. Because the truth is, the Sigma knows that no reaction is the ultimate reaction. In fact, neurological studies show that people who can regulate their emotions under stress have stronger connections between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, meaning they literally have a stronger brain-body connection when it comes to self-control. This is why the Sigma's silence hits harder than any insult ever could. His discipline speaks volumes. It tells the world, "I'm unbothered, untouchable, and not here to play your game." That drives evil people insane because they feed on energy, negative energy. And when they get none, they starve. So the next time someone tries to drag you into their storm, remember, your peace is your power. Maintain your calm, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that reacting gives them what they want. Responding with silence, with stillness, that's the real victory. In a world addicted to drama, being the one who stays grounded isn't just rare, it's revolutionary. Number 7, they undermine you in subtle ways. Not all attacks are loud, and that's what makes them so dangerous. Some don't come with yelling, threats, or insults. They come wrapped in smiles, slick sarcasm, and carefully constructed compliments designed to chip away at your confidence. Evil people often disguise their attacks as subtle digs. They'll say things like, "You're smart for someone like you," or "Must be nice to get lucky like that." These comments aren't meant to uplift you. They're calculated to plant seeds of doubt. Over time, those seeds can grow into full-blown insecurity if you're not vigilant. It's a psychological tactic known as negging, a manipulation technique where someone gives backhanded compliments to erode your self-esteem while maintaining a false sense of camaraderie. The goal to make you feel small enough that you seek their validation. But Sigma males are wired differently. They recognize this passive-aggressive behavior for what it is, a veiled attempt to control perception and disrupt their internal balance. Sigmas are highly self-aware and independent thinkers. They know that humility is about being grounded, not about dimming your light to make others comfortable. They never confuse quiet confidence with self-sabotage. Psychology tells us that people who try to minimize your success often do so out of envy or feelings of inferiority. When someone can't match your energy, they'll try to mute it. But Sigmas don't play that game. They let others reveal their intentions through their words and actions, and then distance themselves accordingly. Instead of shrinking in the face of subtle attacks, they stand tall, not boastfully, but firmly. They don't need to clap back or make a scene. Their strength is in knowing who they are and refusing to be defined by anyone's warped view. So remember this: never let anyone convince you to shrink so they can shine. Your light isn't a threat. It's a mirror exposing where others lack clarity. And that's not your burden to carry. Keep walking in your truth. Keep your boundaries solid, and let your silence speak louder than their disguised insults. Because in a world full of noise, the Sigma's calm, unwavering presence is power in its purest form. Number 8, they obsess over you. When nothing else works, evil people become obsessed. It's not just curiosity, it's a psychological fixation. They start observing your every move like a hawk, analyzing your behavior in hopes of cracking the code that is. They notice when you enter a room, when you leave, how long you take to respond, and even what you don't say. Why? Because they can't stand the unknown, and the Sigma male represents the ultimate unknown. While most people are constantly broadcasting their lives for validation, the Sigma walks a different path, one of intentional silence, self-containment, and mystery. This drives manipulators and toxic people crazy. Studies in psychology have shown that unpredictability breeds obsession, especially among those who seek control. The Sigma's emotional detachment, his refusal to play social games, and his calm, grounded energy make him not just hard to read, but impossible to dominate. His power lies not in flashy words or loud displays, but in his restraint. And in a society addicted to attention and noise, that restraint becomes magnetic. Evil people want to understand him because deep down, they fear what they can't manipulate. They want access to his mindset, not to admire it, but to control it. And that's the one thing they'll never have. Sigmas, the world will always try to pull you into its chaos, but you owe it nothing, not your energy, not your attention, and definitely not your vulnerability. When toxic individuals bait you with drama, manipulation, or envy, remember, silence isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Psychology shows that emotionally intelligent people often withdraw from pointless conflict to protect their peace. That's what you're doing. Let the noise around you grow. Your focus is on building, not battling. Your solitude sharpens your vision. Your uniqueness intimidates the ordinary. If you're catching hate simply for being yourself, congratulations, you're on the right track. True power is quiet, consistent, and unshakable. So stay grounded, stay focused, and let your actions speak louder than their noise. Stay dangerous. Stay Sigma. When a Sigma male enters the room, something invisible but undeniable shifts. The energy changes. It's not about what he says, it's about what he say. He doesn't come in loud, doesn't flash status, and doesn't demand attention, yet somehow he, the atmosphere, the alpha males, usually the ones filling the space with their voice and presence, suddenly go quiet. Their dominance feels challenged, not by aggression, but by mystery. The betas, often seeking cues from others to feel safe, look confused, trying to interpret this calm force that doesn't fit into their social script. And the ones faking confidence, they feel exposed. Nervous, almost as if someone just saw through the mask they've spent years perfecting. So what is it about the Sigma that creates this ripple? It's not magic, it's psychology. Sigma males tend to score high in self-reliance and emotional intelligence. They move with purpose, speak only when necessary, and are deeply aware of their surroundings. This quiet assurance disturbs those who rely on loudness and performance to validate their worth. In a world built around pecking orders and attention economies, a man who doesn't care about being seen but still gets seen becomes a silent threat. And when the Sigma leaves, that's when the paranoia starts. People question if he noticed their insecurities, if he saw past their facades, because he probably did. Sigma males are observers, not out of judgment, but out of instinct. They read people, assess dynamics, and carry themselves as if they've already won a game everyone else is still trying to understand. In this video, we're diving deep into 8 unsettling reasons why Sigma males make others uncomfortable without saying a word. So, if you've ever walked into a room and felt eyes on you, not out of admiration, but confusion and quiet fear, you're about to understand why. This isn't just content. This is a reflection of your silent dominance. Let's get into it. Number 1, they don't play by the social rule book. In every social group, there are invisible rules that govern how people behave. Rules no one writes down, but everyone somehow knows. You're expected to laugh when the alpha laughs, agree when the crowd agrees, and follow the energy of the room like a leaf caught in the wind. These rules form the glue of group dynamics, maintaining order and making interactions predictable. But when a Sigma male enters that same environment, things start to shift. He doesn't follow the script, and that alone sends ripples through the social atmosphere. Sigmas don't play the social game, they observe it. While others are jockeying for status, attention, or validation, a Sigma male remains detached, not because he's trying to be rebellious, but because he genuinely doesn't need to compete in the same arena. Psychologically, this behavior is linked to what researchers call introverted assertiveness, a rare mix of quiet confidence and self-reliance. A Sigma doesn't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be heard. In fact, his silence often speaks louder than anyone else's words. What makes this dynamic so unsettling to others is that it disrupts the social hierarchy. Most people are subconsciously wired to seek approval through laughter, flattery, or imitation. It's a form of social bonding rooted in our evolutionary need for tribe acceptance. But the Sigma walks into that same room and doesn't laugh on cue, doesn't nod when everyone else does, and doesn't flinch at awkward silences. He's not cold, he's just in control. That lack of neediness creates tension because people don't know how to handle someone who isn't seeking their validation. This behavioral independence often translates into social power. When you don't chase approval, you appear stronger. When you don't force conversation or fake smiles, you project authenticity. And when you let everyone else move their pawns while you sit still, strategic, patient, calculating, you become the wild card, the unpredictable element, the one person who can't be easily read or influenced. That freaks people out because most social interactions rely on predictability and feedback. When a Sigma offers neither, the whole system feels like it's short-circuiting. And that's the Sigma's silent advantage. He doesn't just refuse to play the game. He breaks it by refusing to need it. Number 2, they thrive in solitude. You ever notice how society equates solitude with loneliness? Like if you're not constantly surrounded by people, you must be sad or worse, broken. But Sigma males see it differently. For them, solitude isn't something to fear or avoid, it's a sanctuary. It's the space where they recharge, reconnect with themselves, and sharpen their vision. While most people are out chasing approval, attention, or distraction, the Sigma male is embracing the quiet, because that's where real clarity lives. There's a reason why people find this so unsettling. In a world addicted to noise and validation, where notifications, likes, and follower counts define worth, the Sigma's detachment is like a glitch in the matrix. How can someone be so okay without the constant applause of others? The truth is, Sigma males don't need the crowd to feel complete. They find richness in reflection. Studies in psychology even suggest that individuals who are comfortable being alone tend to have higher emotional intelligence and stronger problem-solving abilities. That's not a weakness, it's a rare strength. When a Sigma male is sitting alone in a cafe or walking solo through a park, he's not lonely. He's recharging, he's processing, he's planning his next move. While others may see silence as an uncomfortable void to be filled, Sigmas see it as a weapon, one that helps them observe, adapt, and evolve. In that silence, they study people, they map out patterns, they notice what others miss. This quiet confidence unsettles those who rely on constant engagement to validate their worth. And that's why people ask, how is he so okay being alone? It's because he owns his silence, he commands it. And let's be honest, silence is golden, but it also has power. Power to unnerve, power to speak louder than noise, power to show that being at peace with yourself is the most intimidating trait of all. When a man no longer fears being alone, he becomes truly free. And that kind of freedom, it shakes the world without ever saying a word. Number 3, their confidence comes from within. There's confidence. And then there's Sigma confidence. And make no mistake, the two aren't in the same league. Sigma confidence is not the kind you scream from a rooftop or plaster all over social media. It's not measured by likes, followers, or applause. It's a quiet, unshakable presence. The kind that enters a room and instantly alters the energy without uttering a single word. This isn't bravado. It's not about dominance or seeking validation. It's a deep-rooted self-assurance built on independence, self-awareness, and purpose. Sigmas don't need the spotlight to feel important. They're the spotlight, even when they stand in the shadows. This type of confidence is what unsettles people. In a world driven by external validation, where popularity as currency and self-worth is tied to appearance or performance, someone who simply without effort becomes a mystery and a threat. The guy wearing the loudest outfit, cracking the most jokes, or shouting over everyone in the room may temporarily grab attention. But when a Sigma walks in, calm, composed, and unaffected, people start wondering. Psychologically, this confidence stems from high emotional intelligence and intrinsic motivation. Sigmas are not ruled by the opinions of others. Studies show that those with strong internal motivation and low need for social approval tend to be more resilient, focused, and independent thinkers. That's the Sigma way. They've mastered the art of silence, the strength of solitude, and the power of self-trust. What's even more powerful, the paradox that unfolds. When you stop trying to win over the crowd starts trying to win over you. That's the magnetism of a Sigma male. He doesn't respect, it, not by acting superior, but by being grounded in who he is. And in a world obsessed with noise, that kind of silent strength speaks volumes. So yes, there's confidence, and then there's Sigma confidence. One needs a stage, the other builds empires in silence. Number 4, they're unpredictable by design. You don't reveal your next move, you don't post your life for public consumption, and you don't chase trends, you observe them like a wolf quietly watching the flock. These aren't just cool personality quirks. They're behaviors rooted in something far deeper, the mastery of unpredictability. In a world obsessed with oversharing, broadcasting every meal, emotion and milestone for likes and validation, your silence speaks volumes. People are unnerved, not because they know what you're about to do, but because they. And that mystery, that's power. Unpredictability is one of the most feared human traits for a reason. Evolutionarily, humans are hardwired to seek patterns. It's how we survive, predicting the weather, anticipating danger, reading social cues. When someone breaks that pattern, it scrambles the brain. It causes discomfort, even anxiety. The military has long recognized this. In fact, unpredictability is a key tactic in warfare known as asymmetric strategy, where you never strike the same way twice, keeping your opponent off balance. The same principle applies socially. When people can't anticipate your actions, they lose the ability to manipulate or control you. This isn't about being secretive just to be cool. It's about maintaining psychological autonomy in a world that tries to map you, track you, label you. Your unpredictability makes people nervous, not because you're dangerous, but because you're free. When you don't follow the crowd, you force people to confront their own conformity. When you withhold your next step, you disrupt the script they've written for you in their heads. That rattles them. In essence, unpredictability breaks the illusion of control. And for many, control equals comfort. So when you exist outside their forecast, when you don't respond the way they expect, when your silence replaces their need for closure, they begin to fear you, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you represent something they can't manage. You are a variable in a world addicted to formulas, and that alone is enough to unsettle the entire room. Number 5, they attract attention without trying. Women, men, dogs, cats, baristas, everyone senses that Sigma aura. It's not something you announce, it's something the Sigma male doesn't chase validation, and that alone shifts the entire atmosphere when he walks into a room. You don't flirt with attention, you ignore it, and that's exactly why it comes running. While most people exhaust themselves trying to be seen, you remain calm, reserved, and unfazed. That mysterious presence doesn't beg for eyes. It commands them. What's at play here is something deeper than just personality. It's behavioral psychology. Studies have shown that humans are naturally intrigued by unpredictability and autonomy. People pay closer attention to those who don't immediately reveal themselves. The Sigma male leverages this without even trying. Your independence, your emotional control, your refusal to play into social hierarchies, all of it triggers curiosity and even admiration. You're the social enigma people can't quite figure out, and that's magnetic. You embody self-contained energy. You're not hungry for connection, though you can easily make one. You're not competing with anyone, though you effortlessly outperform the room in presence alone. It's the way you're fine with or without them. That level of self-sufficiency is rare, and in a world obsessed with constant interaction, it feels like rebellion. You're not the loudest in the room. You don't need to be. You're the quietest one with the loudest impact. Your stillness speaks volumes. Your silence makes people listen harder. There's power in that kind of presence. It's the kind of confidence that doesn't shout. It whispers, and somehow everyone still hears it. People notice the way you sit with composure, the way you observe before you speak, the way you smile like you already know something no one else does. And that's the Sigma difference. While others work to be accepted, you've already accepted yourself. While the world scrambles for belonging, you're too focused on building your own world. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. And that right there is why the world notices, even when you say absolutely nothing. Number 6, they disarm egos without saying a word. Every social circle has that one person, the ego warrior. You know the type, the loudest voice in the room, the one who flexes stories of success, flaunts possessions, dominates conversations, and demands attention like a peacock in full display. They feed off applause, recognition, and validation. And in most cases, it works. People lean in, laugh a little too hard, nod in agreement even when they don't understand a word. It's a carefully constructed performance, and most are too entangled in social games to notice. But then something unexpected happens. A Sigma male enters the room. He doesn't say much. He's not dressed to impress, not looking around for approval, and not laughing at things just to fit in. He's simply present, calm, grounded, and that changes everything. The room shifts. The ego warrior, once the center of attention, suddenly feels exposed, nervous, less certain, because none of his usual tactics work. He's loud, you're unmoved. He brags, you're uninterested. He tries to bait competition, you don't bite. You're not playing his game, and that's the most dangerous move of all. Sigmas disarm egos not with aggression, but with indifference. This isn't passive, it's powerful. Psychology backs this up. Humans crave social feedback, and when someone isn't giving it, when you're immune to social posturing, it triggers discomfort in the person seeking control. That's why silence, observation, and self-containment can be more unsettling than confrontation. It disrupts the feedback loop that egos rely on. Without someone to validate their superiority, the loud ones begin to crumble from within. And here's the kicker: the Sigma doesn't do any of this to prove a point. He's just being himself. That's what makes it so lethal. People with fragile egos need opposition to thrive. They need to win. But how do you win against someone who isn't even playing? You don't. You implode. And that quiet implosion is what causes the entire room to shift in energy. So the next time someone loud suddenly goes quiet when you walk in, know this: your energy spoke louder than their volume ever could. Number 7, they are masters of emotional control. While others blow up, spiral out, or need a crowd to validate their emotions, you stay calm, focused, detached. That calmness isn't just a personality quirk, it's a form of emotional discipline, a mastery of self that's becoming increasingly rare in today's reactionary world. Most people are conditioned to react. They're wired to respond to every slight, every insult, every jab with immediate emotion, anger, frustration, defensiveness. But not you. You've built a fortress within your mind, and while the storm rages around you, your inner world remains unshaken. That kind of control, it's not just admirable, it's intimidating. Psychologically, this kind of detachment is rooted in self-awareness and emotional intelligence. Studies in neuroscience show that people who develop strong prefrontal cortex function, the area of the brain responsible for rational thinking and self-control, tend to regulate their emotions more effectively. They pause, they process, and only then do they respond. This is a mental edge you've honed. Whether through experience, introspection, or sheer willpower, you've trained your nervous system not to react impulsively. You've mastered the art of pausing before you speak and thinking before you feel. And that pause, that moment of silence, it unnerves people more than words ever could. That calm, it's psychological kryptonite. It throws manipulators off their game, frustrates emotional bullies, and confuses those who rely on chaos to maintain control. You can't be baited, guilt-tripped, or gaslighted into doubting yourself, because your self-perception doesn't depend on external validation. You know who you are. You've done the inner work. You've made peace with your solitude, and that makes you unpredictable and therefore unmanageable in the eyes of those who want control. And nothing, absolutely nothing, scares people more than someone they can't emotionally manipulate. Because when you're unshakable, you're not just calm. You're powerful, you're free, and that freedom is threatening to anyone who's still trapped in the emotional cages they haven't yet realized they built themselves. Number 8, they make people reflect on themselves. Here's the deepest truth. Sigma males make people uncomfortable, not because they're aggressive, loud, or seeking attention, but because they unknowingly force others to confront parts of themselves they'd rather avoid. When a Sigma walks into a room grounded in quiet confidence, completely unbothered by the need for validation, it sends shockwaves through the social fabric. That self-reliance, that authenticity, it's not just admirable, it's confronting. People who have built their identities on approval, popularity, or external achievements suddenly feel exposed. Without uttering a single word, the Sigma becomes a living contrast, a silent reminder of what others have buried beneath layers of performance. He doesn't chase clicks, trends, or flattery, yet he commands attention. Why? Because truth is magnetic and uncomfortable. Psychologically, this is known as self-comparison theory, where people subconsciously measure themselves against others. But unlike admiration that comes with looking up to a celebrity, the Sigma's presence is too real, too raw. He's not selling anything, he's just being. And that being becomes a mirror, not to judge, but to reflect. A man who doesn't fold under peer pressure, who doesn't conform to expectations, highlights just how much everyone else does. It's not his intention to make people squirm, it's just the consequence of authenticity in a world addicted to pretense. That's why Sigma males are both intriguing and unnerving. They don't expose others with words, they do it with presence. And presence, when anchored in truth, is the most revealing force of all. In a world that thrives on noise and validation, Sigma males are feared not because they try to be, but because they exist outside the system. They walk a path few dare to tread, one that doesn't beg for attention or approval. While society praises the loud, the dominant, and the overtly ambitious, the Sigma man quietly rewrites the rules. He doesn't chase followers, he chases growth. He doesn't need hierarchy, he builds his own reality, and that's where his power lies, in self-mastery. True strength isn't about overpowering others, it's about mastering your impulses, your emotions, and your mission. Studies in psychology show that individuals who exhibit high self-discipline and intrinsic motivation tend to outperform their peers, not through aggression, but through consistency and control. The Sigma doesn't just walk away from the crowd, he walks it, unseen yet deeply felt. His silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. His solitude isn't loneliness, it's clarity. That's why society fears him, because you can't manipulate what you can't define. So keep building in the shadows, keep rising without the applause. And know this, the world isn't ready for a man who doesn't need it. If this resonates with you, then you already belong to a tribe of strategic minds and silent power.